This is how most people, 90% of the motorcyclists in India would identify when you say motorcycling, touring. They look at motorcycles as their ticket to freedom, an escape from their office cubicle into the lap of nature. They are looking at motorcycles as a tool to take them to their dream destinations, places like this, but also to get them here in comfort and the trance of a soothing exhaust note that stirs their soul. But if you are a middle-class slave like me and living in a country like ours, which is run by morons, which equate a motorcycle, a 400cc motorcycle with a helicopter or a yacht, I know the feeling. Your dream bike seems that much further away, isn't it? Or is it? So this is the Royal Enfield Scram 440. A motorcycle which I have to admit I was not the most excited to review, but has gone on to prove that this is possibly the best touring motorcycle that your money can buy under 2.5 lakhs. Now, if you think about all the things that make for a good tourer, you sit down and list out all the things that you would want in your ideal touring motorcycle, I think the entire list boils down to just one word, which is comfort. Because what people want is a motorcycle which will not only take them wherever it is that they want to go, but also make the journey memorable by allowing them to soak in all the good bits and cocooning them from the harsh realities of riding on our Indian roads. Undoubtedly, one of the main intentions for Royal Enfield to update the Scram 440 was primarily to fill in the void which has been created in terms of pricing between the entire 350cc range and the more expensive Himalayan 450. But in that process of updating the Scram 440, what Royal Enfield have ended up doing is possibly shaping this into perhaps their most well-rounded product in this segment. So big story here, of course, is the bump in the cubic capacity to 443cc thanks to the bigger bore, which has increased the power to 25.6 PS and bumped the torque to 34 Newton meters, which are marginal gains considering that this weighs 196 kgs. But this has made a world of difference where you least expect it in terms of refinement. So in terms of the ideal cruising speed, that's still the same 110 kilometers an hour on the Scram 440. That hasn't really changed. But now the Scram can do that all day long with the engine feeling stress-free and without any vibration. It's incredible how refined this engine feels. And that's down to all the changes that Royal Enfield have done in terms of the valve train to improve the NVH levels and of course the addition of the 6th gear, and that has clearly made a big difference. Now the 6th gear is essentially overdrive. It is there to help the Scram 440 eke out a range of 450 to 480 kilometers on this 15-liter tank. But what they have done is they have a much shorter final drive now, which has made the engine a lot more responsive. So overtakes even the 6th gear is very easily possible. And man, I love the way this engine sounds. I mean, this engine has always been characterful with the raspy exhaust note. I absolutely love the pops and bangs when you are rolling off the throttle. But now you also have refinement to boot. And that's a compliment which I can actually also extend to the gearbox, which not only has a 6th gear now, but is also more in the realm of slick and precise rather than clunky and hard as on its predecessor. And another reason why you can actually use this engine to its full potential Wow, that's more like it. It's because of the brakes. This actually has brakes which work compared to the Himalayan 411. And the interesting part here is the fact that most of the equipment, the hardware is essentially the same. This still has a 2-pot caliper, this still has the same 300mm disc, this still has the same brake lines. The difference has been made by the size of the pistons in the caliper. So these are much bigger, and it's incredible how much of a difference just that small change has made, because that has tremendously improved the initial bite when it comes to braking. And yeah, you have so much more confidence that this motorcycle will actually stop. It can definitely do with a little more stopping power, but it's no longer the red flag it used to be as on the Himalayan 411. And the other good thing they have done is they have also given the option to switch off the rear ABS if you plan to venture off-road just by the press of a button. Really neat and really convenient. Talking about off-road, yes, it has lost some of its capability with the addition of the alloys now. Well, let's be honest, this was never really meant to be like a hardcore off-roader, and I think it's a very small price to pay for the convenience that tubeless tires bring to the table, especially when you're touring. In fact, it is this very off-road setup which actually proves to be the Scram 440's trump card even as a tourer. The chassis is the same from the Himalayan 411 but has been further reinforced. You have the same long travel suspension, you have 190 mm of travel at the front, 180 rear wheel travel, and the suspension though has been retuned because the rear subframe has been reinforced to also now allow for a top box. So you have a lot more convenience when you're touring while still being able to enjoy the exceptional ride quality that the Scram has always been renowned for. Even this tank, this 15-liter tank is metal, which gives you more mounting options. And even when you're fully loaded with a pillion, with your luggage, you still have 200 mm of ground clearance at your disposal thanks to the 1917 wheel setup. And then you have the comfortable rider's ergonomics. Now, I was a little bit worried when I first saw the low 795mm seat height. I'm like, there's no way my 511 frame is going to fit on this comfortably, especially over longer distances. But I'm happy to be proven wrong because this actually proved to be really comfortable. And that's primarily down to the overall rider's triangle being really spacious. There's a lot of room for me to move around. That's clearly been designed keeping even taller riders in mind. And again, it's like the other bits, just check the right boxes. You have a tall and wide handlebar, you have a nice upright stance. Even the seat is very well padded, keeping long distance touring in mind, both for the rider as well as the pillion. Change the scenery, and the versatility of the Scram 440 shines through even in the city. People will absolutely love the low 795mm seat height because it makes the Scram 440 so much less intimidating to ride. And you of course have the wide handlebars, which really helps you slice and dice through traffic. Then you have the engine with the additional torque, the long stroke motor and the shorter final drive. That's also improved the tractability, because this one will pull cleanly from as low as 25 kilometers an hour, even in the third gear. And the last thing you'll appreciate is the clutch, which was notoriously hard and heavy to use on the previous iteration. But that also brings us to all the things where the Scram 440 could have been better. Let's start with the clutch. It's still not slip and assist. In this day and age, I think that's like a crime almost, because you cannot have a bike which doesn't get a slip and assist clutch, especially in this category. Secondly, you now do get the LED headlight, but the indicators are still not LED. And the headlight too, I'm not the biggest fan of, because in terms of functionality, it's not the brightest, especially for touring in the night. Then you have the weight. It does a really good job of hiding its weight when you're moving, but you will feel every ounce of the 196 kgs when you're moving this around in a parking lot. And honestly, that is almost unexcusable for a motorcycle which calls itself a Scrambler. Yeah, you also don't get adjustable levers, which would have made this fit even better for people of all shapes and sizes. And lastly, even though I like its simplicity, it should have definitely come with the tripper as standard. But having said all of that, I would still choose the Scram 440 over its competition, namely the Suzuki V-Strom SX250 or even the KTM 250 Adventure any day, because the Suzuki is definitely lighter, but it doesn't have the long legs or the travel to make for a really good tourer. The KTM 250 Adventure scores really high in terms of tech, but is definitely not as refined, and also for taller riders like me, feels quite cramped to provide you the comfort that you seek from a tourer. And even from Royal Enfield's own stable, like as long as you're not too attached to the retro styling that Royal Enfield is known for, this provides the same long stroke riding experience like the 350, while still being more versatile, more comfortable than the classic 350 or even the Meteor 350, while being half as intimidating as the Himalayan 450.